Hey there guys, and welcome back. On this week's show, it's Kids Week, so get your kid in the shop because we're going to be making a Jacob's ladder. Well, for those of you who don't know what a Jacob's ladder is, it's one of these. And it's a simple, fun little wooden toy. They've been around for years. And it's one of those toys that when you watch it in action, you're trying to process how it works and how it happens. And it happens so fast that you really don't know how it works. But I think it's really cool. And it's a great way to get your kids involved in a project. So we're going to start off by heading over to the wood rack, and we're going to grab some scrap, and I think for this we're going to use some scrap oak that's left over from the roll top. Well, I found this piece up on the rack, and this was actually going to be the original pull bar of the roll top desk, but it's got a little bit of a wow to it, if you know what I mean. But it'll be great for this project. So this is 1/2 inch thick and it's 2 inches wide. The 2 inches wide is exactly what we need for this project, but it's a little too thick. So even though there's a wow in it, yeah, I said a wow in it, we're gonna plane this down to 3/8 of an inch thick because that's what we want. So it's scrap anyway, so let's fire it through the planer and we're gonna take off 1/8 of an inch. And with that, you've got it down to 3/8 of an inch. However, we've got some wickedly sharp corners here. And I mean, a kid's going to be working with this or playing with it or what have you. Just take your sandpaper and run it along those corners and knock that sharp edge off of there so that we're not going to get, they almost give like a paper cut. You don't want that for a child. Take those sharp edges off with a little bit of sandpaper, and then we can move on to the next step, which will be over at the table saw. Over at the table saw, what I've done here is I've set the miter fence up to cut each piece here at 3 inches long. Now it's 2 inches wide already, so what we need obviously are pieces that are 2 inches by 3 inches. My initial hope was to get at least 8. But I wanted to see how many I was going to get. I ended up getting 12 out of this piece, and due to flaws and that sort of thing, I ended up with 10 pieces all in all to work with for the project. So this is what ours is going to be. 10 pieces of 3/8 of an inch thick by 2 inches wide by 3 inches long. Now once again, just like you did on the long grain, just for the end grain, take off that sharp edge here. And it doesn't take much to do it. A couple passes with some sandpaper will be just fine. It's not like you have to round it over. Just take off that sharp edge and those sharp corners. Well, now that we've got all the rough edges taken off, we want to place some marks on these. So I have them all lined up here, and I've got them up against a square. That's just to keep them in line. What I'm going to do is we're going to mark the center here on the 3-inch side. So obviously that will be at 1.5 inches. Now I'm just going to clamp them together to hold them all in place. And then we're going to take the square and we're going to transfer that center mark all the way down on each of the blocks. Our next step in the process is to flip the assembly over here, and we're going to place a mark on this opposite side, still on the 3-inch edge, but we're going to come in 3/8 of an inch on either side of our block and transfer the measurement onto all pieces. So we're going to mark in 3/8 of an inch from this side and 3/8 of an inch from this side. And just like I said, we're going to transfer those marks. Now we're going to make them good and clear because on oak it's a little hard to see. I'm just glad this isn't walnut or we'd never see them. So transfer those marks at 3/8 of an inch. And then you're going to need to get some ribbon. Yes, I said ribbon. Well, the next thing that you need in this project would be some ribbon. And I asked my wife for some ribbon for a woodworking project, and I got pink. That's okay. I can rock pink. I can work with this. What you're going to need here, I've got about 3 feet of each, and this ribbon is 3/8 of an inch wide. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our first piece of our block, and we need to glue ribbons onto this. So we have our hot glue gun heating up here, and let me just show you how we're going to glue the ribbons in place. Now all the ribbons will come off of this first block the exact same direction. So we're going to place a little bit of hot glue onto our center mark, which was at the 1.5 inches, and we're going to take one pink ribbon and we're just going to lay it in place and glue it on the edge of our block, just like that. Tap it down, be very careful, especially with the children if you've got them out here in the shop working with a hot glue gun, especially if you have one of these DeWalt ones, because good gosh, that glue is hot. Hence the name hot glue, I guess, right? Okay, so the next step here, you have your ribbon in the middle here coming off of the one side, and now we're going to add one of the 3/8 ribbons, or sorry, one of the ribbons at the 3/8 mark. So we'll just put this in place and hold our ribbon there just like that and pull it across like that and give it a little pat down there to hold it in just like that. And then we're going to add our other ribbon at the 3/8 mark here. So a little blob of hot glue once again, just like that. And take our third pink ribbon and just wrap it like that and give it a little tap down in the hot glue. And again, please, with the children, be careful with this hot glue. So you should have something now that looks like this. You can see that all of the ribbons come off of the one side. Now what we're going to do is the pieces on the 3/8 side here, they come across this way. The piece on the 1/2 inch or the 1.5 inch mark, they come across this way, just like that. And once you get that done, now we're going to take another block and sit it right there. And well, we need the hot glue gun again, and we're going to put a dab of glue there, and we're going to pull this ribbon up and glue it in place. So hold your block there. Now you don't want to yank this too tight. You don't want these super tight. They kind of have to be just a little loose. So we're going to put a blob of hot glue there and pull our ribbon around like that. Pat it down just a little bit to flatten it and weave it over to this side. And then we're going to do the exact same thing on this side of our project with the ribbons at the 3/8 mark. So we're just going to set a little bit of hot glue in there like that and take this ribbon at the 3/8 mark and pull it up over and just pat it down. And you can see what we're doing here. Now we're going to weave this over to this side. And then the same thing with the second pink ribbon. Actually, you know what? I don't mind the pink. I could rock it. I could rock anything. I'm confident enough that I could rock pink. And even if you weren't confident enough, what's wrong with pink? Some of my favorite things are pink. Flowers, pigs. Okay, enough of that silliness. And now you just want to continue. So just place your next block down there, line everything up, another blob of glue, and keep weaving back and forth until you get it all together to the last of your pieces of stock. So now you've got them all glued to the top, and anyone who's ever used a glue gun knows about all these little strings of glue that are left behind after you use it. Well, this is the fun for the kids to pull off and play with. I mean, this is crazy stuff. It's all stringy and gooey and kind of thing. And kids just dig that kind of thing. So, you know what? It's what makes it a great kid project to go around here again and pick off all of this glue. Once you get it all cleaned up like that, now we need to trim these ribbons that are left. And that's just a matter of a sharp knife. Trim them flush here, and as well trim the ones that are down here, the original ones that you glued up, just to make it so there's no loose ends sticking out. And there you have it. A Jacob's ladder. Guys, it's a simple little toy, it's a fun little toy, and the young ones enjoy making this sort of thing in the shop, so get them out there. Now, truth be told, when I initially wrapped the ribbon around the wood, it was actually too tight, and I didn't like the way that it functioned. It wasn't really operating the way I thought it should. So what I did was I used a piece of hardboard, just a thin piece in between, and before I wrapped the ribbon around, I put a piece of hardboard on it, then put the ribbon over, then sat the block on top of all of that, glued it together, and then slid the hardboard out. And that gave me just enough slack in the ribbon to allow the pieces to flow freely. And what you end up with is, well, you end up with a working Jacob's ladder like this. Now guys, this is a great project for the young ones, and get them out there in the shop. Get them working with the wood. Get them working with the tools. Get them working with making sawdust to produce something. Pass this hobby on to the next generation so that they can pass it on to their kids and them to their kids, and so on and so on. Keep them making projects, keep the hobby alive, and keep watching my program. And with that being said, I hope you're going to join me again next week for yet another woodworking video.